begin, I want to note that we are undertaking the second of 2 days of hearings as part of this subcommittee's annual Iran Accountability Week. The past year has seen an intensification of human rights abuses and repression in Iran, including execution and torture and the further diminishment of political and civil rights. As Iran prepares for presidential elections on May 19th, the list of human rights abuses keeps growing. On Tuesday, we heard from distinguished human rights activist and lawyer Erwin Kotler, who told us of the fivefold threat presented by the Khomeini's regime in Iran and the mass repression faced by the Iranian people, in particular the impunity by which the regime abuses Iranians and imprisons its opposition, and the important venues and occasion like today's hearing have in supporting the Iranian people and pressuring Khomeini's regime. We also heard from Corinne Bach of the Baha'i Community of Canada, who described the institutionalized and socially accepted discrimination and persecution faced by the Baha'i in Iran, including exclusion economically, politically, socially, and educationally, and the great resilience the Baha'i in Iran have shown in persevering through these abuses. The criminalization of dissent has intensified, and the persistent oppression of minority communities, including members of Iran's LGBTQ community and Iranian women, continues unabated. We, as the Human Rights Subcommittee, want to be on record that human rights abuses in Iran are always top of mind, and we want to express our solidarity with the people of Iran, including political prisoners, prisoners of conscience, and the human rights defenders who tirelessly work in Iran and abroad and at great personal cost for the promotion, protection, and respect for human rights in their country. During today's hearing, part of our focus will be on the grave human rights abuses faced by LGBTQ individuals and communities in Iran. On today's panel, we have from the Iranian Railroad for Queer Refugees by video conference from Toronto, Arsham Parsi, Executive Director, and from the Rainbow Railroad, Kamali Powell, Executive Director. And as a last-minute addition, to whom we are very grateful for appearing by video conference from Lahore, Pakistan, Asma Jahangir, UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Iran. I'll ask the witnesses to please keep your opening remarks to 5 minutes each so that we have enough time for members' questions. Mr. Parsi, if you'd like to start with your opening remarks, and then we'll move to Mr. Powell and finish with Ms. Jahangir. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. And we're talking about human rights in Iran, and I think there's not much to mention because we have a lot of violation of human rights in Iran. And specifically for Iranian, as I said, I'm the executive director of the Iranian Railroad for Queer Refugees, a registered charity based in Toronto, Canada. We operate internationally, and we are in contact with a lot of members of Iranian LGBTQ society inside and outside of Iran, that many of them, they have no option but escaping Iran in order to be alive. It's not about their rights, it's a matter of life and death, because according to the Sharia law and Islamic punishment code in Iran, homosexuality is punishable by death. And there is, an agreement between all the clergies, and the only disagreement between clergies and lawmakers is how we kill the person. Some of them believe that they have to be hanged, some of them believe that they have to be stoned to death, some of them believe that they have to be cut in half by sword or throw them from, a big cliff. So as a result, there is a lot of punishment and, a lot of tortures, imprisonment that Iranian LGBTs experience. For example, recently in April 2017, a private party in city of Isfahan in Iran was raided by police. They were member of, LGBTs, and they were non-LGBT guests over there. All of them were arrested. They were taken to detention center. They were at the detention center for a couple of days, and then were sent to the Dastgird prison in Isfahan for just, the crime of homosexuality. Some of them were released on bail and waiting for their hearing. And when they go to the court, there is obvious reason, and minimum it's 100 lashes for homosexuality, or maybe they accuse them for drinking alcohol or doing something against the national security. Because in Iran and the justice system always they create labels. In July 2007. 19 July, as everyone knows, 2 teenagers were executed in city of Mashhad for homosexuality. And several times, Iranian judiciary system changed the story. And many times, in Shiraz, in Tehran, people were arrested at the gay parties and the gay birthday parties, but when they were sentenced to 100 lashes. And when the court verdict issued, it was 100 lashes for drinking alcohol. There were no alcohol on the event because the Iranian judicial system, they want to have another reason in order to avoid international pressure. But we know that people are being arrested, they are being mislabeled and mistrialed. They don't have access to the legal representations because a lot of lawyers in Iran are reluctant to take these cases because it's a big stigma and they don't want to jeopardize their situation or even their other clients. So that is, as a result, there is a lot of pressure, not only from the government, but also from the society on the Iranian LGBTs, and they have no way but escaping in Iran. And also there is no publication. The media usually they are reluctant to report these issues and investigating it because they don't want to lose their license. So it is a kind of not even don't ask, don't tell, it's just don't do anything. And we tried, it takes us several years to come up with a report, which is more around 50 pages. I submitted to the committee, and I know that it's in the translation department to prepare the French version, and you will be provided. We looked into the judiciary system, the law, and the punishment code for homosexuality in Iran, and there is a lot of documentation that it might helpful for you to look into it and see how we can, as a Canada or international government, how we can address Iran's issue. Because always I said, Iran's only issue is not the nuclear deal. It is human rights.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to Mr. Powell.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. I think I'll just step back and let you know a little bit about Rainbow Railroad and how we're affected by Iran and the situation facing individuals in Iran and other countries around the world. Rainbow Railroad has been established since 2006, although we became an official charitable organization in 2013. And our mission is to help persecuted LGBTQI2S individuals around the world facing persecution to find a pathway to safety. Unfortunately, the amount of work that we have done has increased significantly over the amount of years as more individuals find out about our organization and how we could help. In 2015, we helped 29 individuals find a pathway to safety. That number rose to 81 people in 2016, and since January, we've already helped and moved about 60 individuals with another 10 more on the way. Of course, if you're following the news, you might also know that we are the organization that is a point organization with the Russian LGBT Network, which is the organization helping people who have fled safe houses and have fled Chechnya find refuge in safe houses. How Rainbow Railroad operates is that we work directly with organizations on the ground to help individuals find a pathway to safety, whether it's through the UN HCR process or through a visa of some sort into a country. However, we will, through any legal means, provide transportation to individuals where there's access to a country without a visa requirement. And so what we're facing with in Iran is a situation where while we are very thankful for groups like the Iranian Railroad for Queer Refugees, there's very limited amount of civil society on the ground that can actually help us. Civil society in these organizations are key for us to establish connections, to verify cases, and to help the traumatic individuals actually move to a pathway to safety. And so in Iran, we're finding ourselves stuck because for a couple of reasons. A, individuals, in order to receive Canadian support, need to leave the country. And so determining a safe place for those individuals to leave, whether it be Bolivia or another country, is taxing and is dangerous for the individual. But most importantly, it's finding a mechanism for safety once they arrive in that country. They could receive visa-free access to another country like Argentina, but ideally, they would be able to get either a facilitation visa or a temporary resident permit to receive entry into Canada. The challenge that we're having right now from our constituents or our stakeholders is that we have wonderful declarations from the Canadian government about being welcome to LGBTQ2S individuals, but we're actually limited to the amount of individuals we're actually able to bring into Canada. And so while we're really concerned with the individuals facing the Iranian individuals, Arsham laid it very clearly. They're in very dire situations. We've had at least 20 requests from individuals this year. We are open to facilitating an opportunity to provide access to safe haven for any of those individuals. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Powell. I think we're just checking to see if we've managed to get the rapporteur on the line. No luck yet. Okay, so they'll let us know. So I think we're going to move straight into to questions with the hope that if we can actually get the line connected, it seems to have been one of those days. If we can get the line connected, we'll take a pause here from the rapporteur and then move on. So with that, MP Sweet, are you leading off?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much for your testimony. We greatly appreciate it, and thank you for relieving the suffering of so many. One of the things that I would like to ask you, Mr. Powell, you had mentioned about specific numbers that you've been able to rescue. Is there somebody that either you or you partner with that has a database of those who have been arrested and executed? Do we have their names? Do we know the numbers? Somebody keeping that record?
The International Lesbian and Gay Association is probably the best source for keeping a tally on states that criminalize same-sex behavior. So their 2016 report mentioned 73 states, and I believe it's 13, including Iran, where it's punishable by death. I don't know if they go into specific details of names, but they do a robust survey of countries, and that's probably a good resource to start.
Okay, thank you.
I think Arsha might be.
I would like to add that, for the execution, I know that Human Group based in Stockholm, Sweden, they come up with a report that between 1979, which was the Islamic Revolution in Iran, until 2000, 4,000 people were executed for homosexuality. Our stand is that we don't know all those 4,000 people were actually member of LGBT community, but it was a way for the new regime to get rid of opposition by labeling them, as a gay man, and it was, no one wanted to touch them, and they were executed. So, we emphasize that in a country that even heterosexual individuals could be punished to death for homosexuality, speaking of, the real LGBTs is, out of conversation, and it's very obvious.
Yeah, it's just with the kind of judicial system that's there, just the allegation is enough to get you incarcerated for certain, if not killed. Is the death sentence being carried out in 100% of the cases? Have you been able to rescue some that have been arrested and been able to flee before they're incarcerated?
Yes, we were, as I said, there are not a lot of legal representatives in Iran that they would like to take these cases, but we had some lawyers who took these cases and tried to, challenge the government in order that, the people deny their sexual orientation, said, we're not gay, because one of the methods of proving sexual orientation is that people admit that I am a gay man or lesbian. And so those lawyers, they have different methods of, tricks in order to see how they can protect their clients. And also they need at least 2 witnesses who should be men, not women. They don't, convey on the women's witnesses. And they have to be witness as, to prove that these individuals are gay. And a lot of European court, refugee tribunals, they challenge this one that, in Iran, however, there is a death penalty for homosexuality, but it's very difficult to prove it. Therefore, they don't carry out these executions. But, there are in many incidents that Iranian regimes, attacked a lot of, private parties with cameras, and they, film the incidents, everything. On that case, they don't need any kind of, vivid evidence. And according to Article 120 of the Punishment Code, the judge can sentence someone on the basis of his own knowledge. For example, if a judge says, I know you look gay, I know you're gay, so that's enough that he can, proceed.
You look gay. That's interesting. there's a difference, or maybe there isn't, but so let me pose this question to you. The transgender community in Iran is treated differently. Is that correct? And if so, how do they explain that in Sharia law?
Thank you so much for asking me this question, because a lot of people believe Iran is a paradise for transgender, because according to Ayatollah Khomeini's fatwa, transgender can go and through sexual reassignment surgery. But it is not about their transgenders' rights. It is actually their violation of their rights, because the Ayatollah Khomeini's fatwa was based on that we have two acceptable norms, male or female. If you are anything in between, go fix yourself. You're sick. And the sexual reassignment surgeries in Iran, they are a kind of forcing gay people to go through sexual reassignment surgery. We had a study and research in 2004, and 45% of those people who went through sexual reassignment surgery was not transgender individuals. They were homosexuals, and they had no options. And they said it's better than being killed and being arrested. At least we can survive. And going through these, sexual reassignment surgeries, and they cannot go back. And that is why a lot of them, after several years, they committed suicide, and we had a high rate of suicidal among transgenders. We had a lot of people who escaped Iran because, they wanted to have a surgery and they wanted to live free. And one of my friends, I remember in Turkey, she was even on the hormone therapy. She wanted to have a sexual reassignment surgery and become a woman, and then she resettled in Vancouver. And after 2 years, she called me and said, you know what, I think I'm gay, I'm not trans, because here I can be who I am. So it was an indirect pressure on the people. I talked to a lot of doctors that usually, as soon as you go to a psychologist and said, I have a special feeling, I think, I'm attracted to my, same-sex gender, usually they don't tell you that you might be homosexual. They say, yeah, there is another gender within you, and through the operation, we take it out. I remember when I was in Iran, I went to one of the psychologists, who was the head of the department in city of Shiraz, Dr. Hafshanas, and I explained to him that I'm a gay activist. I want to follow up this question and collect the question from people. And he gave me a very interesting response. He told me, tell all of your friends to not coming to my office, because as long as I'm sitting on this chair, I'm the government employee. I have to sit here, and the other people on the other side of the table is patient. I have to prescribe that person. I have to write the medication. I have to send them to shock therapy. But tell your friends to not coming to my office, because basically they don't need to come it.
Thank you very much. I'm actually going to take this opportunity. We've managed to connect Asma Jahangir, the UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Iran, by phone from Lahore in Pakistan. Ms. Jahangir, can you hear me? Ms. Jahangir, can you hear me? Yeah, it may just take a moment to come through. Nope. Ms. Jahangir, can you hear me?
So it was working a minute ago, but now it's busy. So they're trying to reconnect her. So.
Okay. So we will move to MP Tabara. If you want to start your question, Ms. Jahangir? It's flashing up. Seemingly we had her, and then the line disconnected. But why don't you begin, Ms. Khalid?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for your testimonies today. Mr. Powell, I'll start with you. You had mentioned that your organization helps members of the LGBTQ2 community from across the world. Can you give us a bit of a ratio as to, or numbers as to where do you see the majority of the people that are seeking help coming from the most?
Absolutely. So the majority of the people that both request our help and were able to manage to move to safety come from the Caribbean. Jamaica in particular is well documented for having LGBTQ as human rights abuses, where you see just horrific examples of brutality against that community. Our ties in that community, as well as clear organizing in civil society on the ground, allows us to move individuals with a good degree of success. Other areas of concern for us are countries in Africa, such as Uganda, Nigeria, the Middle East, of course, and the Middle East and Northern Africa. We receive a number of requests from Syria, but of course, it's very challenging to help those individuals. We have had some success when they go to countries like Lebanon, and of course, we helped 4 individuals from Syria through the Rainbow Refugee Assistance Program that allowed private sponsorship of those individuals. We've always had a challenge in Iran and in Eastern Europe, which has shifted remarkably in the past few months because of organizing the community there to find access to individuals.
I understand that LGBTQ2 issues are big, even in countries like Canada, where we have established democracies. It took a while for us to, within our own Charter of Rights and Freedoms, really accept the rights of all individuals, regardless of what their orientation was. Now, it's my understanding that in Iran, there was a citizens' rights charter that was established in late 2016. Do you know if that charter, first off, addressed the rights of LGBTQ2 communities, and if there's any enforcement of those rights at all, or any improvement along those lines?
To my knowledge, not. I mean, my colleague Arsham will be able to speak to that with more detail, but from my understanding, no. No. The answer is no.
Yeah, and I would like to add that, as my friend says, no, because most of these things in Iran is a kind of political show. So I usually tell my friends that don't believe what you see or hear from Iranian government, because the Iranian system is a supreme leader, has an absolute power. So even if a president sign a contract or sign a agreement with another country and supreme leader wants to void it, they can. So those those civil rights codes or these things, the Human Rights Charter, all of them are based on Islamic version. So according, for example, they said that we have, human rights, but they talk about Islamic human rights, which is not including LGBTs and a lot of other controversial issues that we're dealing in a very, progressive countries.
Thank you. And I'll share my time with Mr. Tabara.
Thank you, and thank you for both the witnesses for being here. I just wanted to get a little bit more information on the LGBT community in Iran and on the ground. We know that the Iranian government does not allow non-governmental organizations such as Human Rights Watch to enter the country and take certain data and into consideration about human rights abuses. So for the LGBT community inside Iran, they're not comfortable, having long conversations over the telephone. They're weary of putting things online. How does that community organize and get word out there to other members in the LGBT community inside Iran? If I can first ask Mr. Parsi.
Yeah, so it is, your question, as a result of your question, all of my hair became gray because it is very difficult. Internet is being censored and, monitored by the government, telephone, all the communication things. It is very, very tough to collect the information from people. But usually there are a lot of brave Iranian LGBTs who take a risk in order to send the information out. I remember several years ago, I connected an Iranian LGBT in city of Isfahan to Human Rights Watch. They had like 10-15 minutes interview, and he told me just 10 minutes after he ended up the telephone, you receive a call from intelligence service that you had a conversation with Human Rights Watch and you have to come and explain. And there is a lot of monitoring. So people come up with and thanks to internet and a lot of social apps like, Telegram, Viber, and these, new platforms that people can communicate, they can send the information. And that is why Iranian regimes actively try to block, like, Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, and these apps in Iran, because it's very difficult for them to monitor them.
Mr. Tabara, I'm going to just interject for a second while we've got Ms. Jahangir on the line. Are you there, Ms. Jahangir?
Yes, okay, wonderful.
Good. Can we give you, we're thrilled to be able to connect with you. I know you've been trying to get online with us for a while now. Can we please have you deliver your remarks for our committee? We would be thrilled to have that on the record.
Well, I don't know what area you want me to deliver my remarks on Iran, because I'm afraid that I'm poorly assisted in this way, because I did not have the agenda of what area that you want me to address. I mean, obviously I know that it's human rights, but if you want me to address you in the sense of what is my priority area, I'd be happy to do that.
Sure, and maybe you can. We've got two witnesses that have given us an in-depth review of LGBTQ rights. Maybe if you can focus your remarks a little bit on women's rights, and also what you're finding in terms of the occurrence of torture and execution this year. I know you're new into this role. We heard from Dr. Shahid last year at our Iran Accountability Week. But if you can take 5 or 7 minutes to just give us a bit of an overview, I think that would be most valuable for this committee.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I think that first my statement would be that I am extremely concerned about the upsurge of arrests of people who are political activists. Now, when I say political activists, doesn't mean they belong to political parties, but people who are politically aware. And obviously, women are a number of people who are under those arrests, and they are political prisoners. About women's rights, I mean, if you just want me to focus on women's rights, I'm happy to do that. But I think it goes hand in hand with the overall situation of political and human rights situation in Iran. You can't just plug it out and say, yes, women's rights are suffering deplorably, but so are minority rights, so are ethnic rights. It is the whole atmosphere of fear that prevails there. And as the election of May comes nearer and nearer, dissenting voices are being thwarted, and people are being tortured, people are being harassed, people are being picked up. But if you want me to focus purely on women's rights, I'm happy to do that too. I mean, this is a story that is not just of current affairs, but this has been going on for some time. And the latest is that women who wanted to contest elections for president, obviously they were not allowed. But this is only symbolic of what is happening to the vast majority of women in Iran, where you cannot even decide what kind of dress you wear, plus the interaction of women and men is very restricted. There is not just a glass ceiling, there is an iron ceiling for women's upward mobility in every field of life. They are controlled, their family laws are very controlling. And so, I mean, I can give you many examples of how women are being harassed, how women are being persecuted in many ways, just simply because they happen to be women.
Ms. Jahangir, I'm happy for you to provide us again with just a bit of an overview generally on the issues you feel are most important in terms of the human rights abuses and what you've found and identified in your first number of months in offices. I'll leave it to you to select a couple of illustrative areas to relay to this committee. Obviously, we're concerned about human rights writ large in Iran.
Sorry, I can't hear you properly. Your last sentence, please.
I leave it to you if you would like to pick a couple of areas and give us just some examples. That would be fine. It doesn't have to relate just to women. Whichever areas you feel are going to best reflect the issues of human rights in Iran, which is what we are clearly seized with during this Iran Accountability Week.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, let me, for example, start with the aspect that if you're dissenting and you're a man, you're treated badly. But if you're a woman, you're treated even worse. I mean, that is the distinction that I would draw there. So dissent from women lawyers, for example, will be reprimanded much more. I'm not saying that men are spared there. And don't take me as saying that they're spared. But there is an extra, awful, and very devious way of dealing with women there. In terms of trying to torture them, because you don't have to physically even torture them. There are reports where you're humiliated, where your sexual organs are being discussed in public if you are in prison. You are asked personal questions which are unrelated to what your life is all about, and plus personal questions which are socially unacceptable. I mean, there's a lot of talk about tradition and social norms in Iran, but then when they want to persecute women, it all disappears. Then the fact that women prisoners, they are tortured in the sense that they are kept away from their children, and they would be told that your child is coming to see you, but then the meeting is cancelled. And it's a very insidious way of torture for a mother. And then it's put up a week later, the child is coming to see you, and the child doesn't turn up. What is happening to the child? The mother is kept at not being allowed or not being told what is happening. And a lot of women from prison have written to me where they hear children crying also when they come to see their mothers and they are being separated from their mothers. Plus the fact that in universities and educational departments, women are sexually harassed and there is impunity for it. But if a woman wants to sit with a man according to her own wishes, she is not allowed to do it. So there is a kind of a control, sexual control on women in that sense. And it's all very well to say, well, all we want is for you to wear a headscarf and you can do whatever you want is not correct. Because even politically, women cannot contest certain elections. Women cannot get to certain posts. And if you look at the family laws of women, they are very much subjugated and under the control of the male partner. How she behaves, where she travels, where she goes, is a permission that she needs from the male partner. So, I mean, you know, if the example is given to me that women are great entrepreneurs in Iran, it may be true, but it's no thanks to the state of Iran and government of Iran.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jahengar. We will move on. Mr. Tabara, I think you've got a couple of minutes left, and then we're going to move to MP Garrison. Please continue. And
one second here.
I wonder if I could help finish that question.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
About civil society. I think it's important to understand how exactly we are able to help individuals that request our help and need a pathway to safety. We have to do three things. We have to be able to, again, verify the case through any means necessary. We have an army of volunteers around the world that help us do that. But an important piece of that is to connect that individual with an organization of some sort that can give them immediate support and needs. We're usually talking about individuals who are facing immediate persecution of some sort, and they're facing an immediate threat. And so they usually, I think, Arsham laid it up very clearly. There's a limited amount of mechanisms. Sometimes Facebook and social media is a key driver. WhatsApp is a means of communication. Sometimes people find my own personal information and I'm getting requests. And so the linkage to civil society is crucial. And I think it's important to know that crackdown on civil society in Iran is not just limited to LGBTQI two-spirited organizations. We would be happy to work with any human rights organization that's able to assist these individuals. But if the civil society there does not, even if the human rights organizations do not accept LGBTQI2S individuals in that space, then it's impossible to help that individual to give them the support they need to ultimately leave the country. So that's the unique challenges that these Iranians face.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Mr. Tawar, any last question there?
Just I wanted to ask Ms. Asma Jahangar if she's still on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. My question is towards, you mentioned a lot about women and their rights. In the case of incidents where there's incidents of rape or incidents that conflicts with women's rights, a lot of women are hesitant to come forward in places like Iran, and even in our North American society, there's a lot of pressure even for women to come out because they may feel that certain authorities may not listen to them or might not believe them. There's embarrassment, but particularly in Iran, what are some of the challenges that women face when they're faced with these types of situations?
Well, can I take your last question first? You don't only have to be raped as a woman to feel violated. There are many ways of raping a woman psychologically and emotionally. And I think that is what some of the governments have learned to do. When you talk about a woman's body in her presence and in the presence of her family, in a traditional society like Iran, it is like raping her. And when you talk about a woman in the sense that she is a woman who's very promiscuous and have social media campaigns against her, it is more or less raping her. This is not to say that I do not have reports of raping of women, but I am not going that far. It is the whole attitude towards women. You don't have to kill people, but you can subjugate them. You can kill their spirit. And the dictatorships of the world are learning very fast how to kill people's spirit without killing them physically. And this is what we need to learn.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jahangar.
As far as social media is concerned, I don't depend on every report that I get from social media. I verify my report from inside Iran most of the time. And I salute the people inside Iran who have, despite everything, fought hard to communicate to the outside world.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jahangar.
How resilient they are. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're running low on time. I do want to pass the floor over to MP Garrison.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I want to return to Mr. Powell and Mr. Parsi. First of all, I want to say thanks for the work that you and your organizations do every day. And like you, I welcome the new government saying that LGBTQ refugees would be a high priority based on risk. And I met immediately with the new immigration minister, and then I met with his successor, asking what the government would do to make that promise a reality, to recognize that risk and make things happen. And I cited both of your organizations as examples of success, of how Canada might go about doing this. And I met with what I would call institutional misunderstanding. And that was that LGBTQ refugees had the same access to the Canadian refugee system abroad as any other refugee would have. They could simply go into a camp and claim refugee status. That would be easy. And that if they were accepted and came here, they should get the same services and be settled with their community just like any other refugee. And I'd like, maybe I'll start with Mr. Powell for you to talk about why that is or is not the case. And I worry the government will fold in these pilots just to general private sponsorship programs.
I can answer that. In response to whether the situation is the same for an LGBTQI two-spirit individual as it is for another refugee, if that's the specific question, the answer is no. I think it's really important to understand that when people make either make an asylum claim or go through the system through private sponsorship, they're usually doing it as a family. They're usually doing it in consultation with their communities. They're usually doing it in a group of communities. The individuals that we help, or the people that request our help, over 700 last year, come to us as individuals. They're usually shunned from their families, or even the families are the ones inflicting violence. So to isolate those individuals going through the system is traumatic for the individuals and puts them at risk. We've had instances of individuals going in camps in other countries, for example, Frankfurt, and finding real challenges within the population of refugees there. So there does need to be, especially as Canada labels the LGBTQ2 community as a vulnerable population, then that also needs to be reflective in immigration policy.
And I would like to add, and thank you so much for this question. It's very important. And I mentioned this several times. The last time that I mentioned it was with Mr. Chairman. We had a meeting in Toronto with the Prime Minister's special reporter on LGBTQ. And in Turkey, because we mostly process LGBT refugees, not only Iranians, non-Iranians as well, since we are a charitable organization operating outside of Canada. According to the UNHCR office in Ankara, Turkey, as of May 2016, they had 1,172 LGBT cases, which 1,046 of them was from Iran. The next country was from Iraq with 62 people. So in total, there are like 1,200 LGBT refugees in Turkey, while there is 2 million all refugees in Turkey. So they are a very small group of other people who are being, discriminated, but not only by Turkish society, homophobia and everything, even by the other refugee groups. Because, migration doesn't mean that people change their mentality and values. They bring their values with themselves. They just, pick their luggage and bring what they believe. If someone is homophobic, it doesn't matter that they live in Iran or in Canada. So my response is that they need to be prioritized as the most vulnerable, refugees. However, the UNHCR prioritize them, and Canada in last several years they prioritize them in order to be resettled in Canada. But unfortunately, it's been a while that they are not coming to Canada. They were put on hold. A group of people are in a very bad situation. So there are always, I don't want to give a bad information, but one of them, last week, 2 people committed suicide in Turkey because they couldn't wait, especially by the Trump administration travel ban, and it's very tough situation for LGBT.
My goodness. Oh. That is our time up, actually. I just want to say this concludes our testimony to our 3 witnesses, and I think 2 of the 3 are unfortunately been cut off. We faced technical challenges today, which I apologize for, but we did get your testimony on the record, and I'm glad we got to engage with you. You brought an important message to this, to our Iran Accountability Week, and it will be part of the comments we make in our concluding statement that will go out later today or tomorrow. So this draws to a close our Iran. Mr. Parsi, I just wanted to say thank you to you as well for bearing with us through the technological challenges we faced this afternoon, and your testimony was valuable, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and with that, we will adjourn.